The top 100 agents are the best of the best, listing and selling more than any other agent in Australia.
Sold. Congratulations, sir. Well bought.
These are the practices, actions and beliefs of the most successful agents in Australian real estate. Raw, honest and completely uncut. Welcome to REB's Secrets of the Top 100 Agents.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast. I'm Emilie Lauer, REB's Deputy Editor, and today we are celebrating International Women's Day with a special episode highlighting the remarkable women shaping the industry. For this, I am joined by Laing+Simmons Head of People and Growth, Jacqui Barnes, who has launched a new study exploring the real estate experience of women to uncover the shared traits of high-performing female agents and map how that performance intersects with family, flexibility, support, but also the barriers women face. Jacqui, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Look, before we dive deeper into the survey, I want to come back a little bit on your experience in the real estate industry. You've been working in the space for quite a while. You started back when you were just 16 years old as a Saturday receptionist. So what was the industry for women back then, and how much did you see it change over the years?
Oh, the change has been, I look back on it now and it's astronomical how things have changed. I feel like back then, you know, I first started, that would have been the late 90s when I was doing that Saturday reception role and sort of then leading into my first full-time position straight out of high school. And the way things have changed, you know, back then it was sort of every 5 years or so there was some kind of big evolution. You know, it might have been going from printing the trust account receipts on the dot matrix printer that had the little holes down the side with carbon copy, so in triplicate and all that sort of stuff. And sort of every 5 years there'd be some kind of mass evolution of some description. But, you know, the last 10 years, every 6 to 12 months, and probably faster now, is that evolution is just so rapid in the evolvement of it, with the technology and the training and the tools at everybody's disposal.
How has it changed for women?
So I think there's been really significant progress, and in a lot of ways, you know, there's big strides forward, and sadly in a lot of ways there's also not. And it's a bit of a, you know, not every woman will have the negative experiences that women might have had, you know, back in the sort of the 90s and early 2000s. But unfortunately, there are still women having, you know, some of those experiences now, although they are less with the level of education and awareness and standards that has come into play. I think that back when I first started, women weren't really in sales. Women were receptionists, office admin, property managers. There was not really a lot of men in property management when I first started. And back then men might have been in leasing sort of positions, but they were using that as a stepping stone into sales. Whereas now it's a mixed bag of who's in property management, and it's whoever is the right person for the job, not based on necessarily that they need to work office hours, you know, with caregiving and all that sort of stuff. So that level of understanding on how parenting and having a career and all of the things that women want to have, be able to have the best of both, and be able to thrive in both parenting and work. That level of understanding, I think, has shifted dramatically as well.
Which is a good thing at the end
Wonderful
of the day,
thing.
because it kind of was needed. And I think it's coming also as we become more educated, we have a better understanding, and there's also a need for a double income.
You know, I just don't even know how. I shudder to think what income my children will need by the time they are old enough to have their own children and careers and things, because I cannot imagine a time where both parents can't work.
Yeah, which brings us to like the beauty of like real estate, especially I would say on a sales role where you can definitely, as a woman, grow your business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And make as much money as you possibly can.
I mean, that's true for anyone in sales. The sky's the limit. There is literally no income cap as to what you can earn. For the level of education you need to go and earn that astronomical income, I mean, doctors go and study 10 years and have to work crazy hours on work placements and residencies and all of those things. And we can finish year 10, go and do our certificates and licenses and be earning double what a GP earns in a really short amount of time. It's uncapped.
Well, we mentioned a little bit that the industry for women has changed over the year, and thankfully for that. What are some of, I would say, benefits and challenging we still have today?
I think that the way that when somebody gets a new role in the industry, if they negotiate what their requirements are, before they've taken on their role, and it might be that they get a day a week to work from home, or it might be that they get to work school hours and things like that. I think that people that have experience, like strong experience and strong credibility behind them, are able to negotiate those things with a bit more ease than somebody that doesn't necessarily have that credibility yet from a real estate career background. I think there is not as much understanding, though, that, and really it shouldn't actually just be limited to women, because men are parents too.
Yeah.
I think that just understanding that being able to have a working parent in your office, that there is a level of understanding that they might need, whether it's to pick them up from after school care or daycare by a particular time, whether it's the Mother's Day or Father's Day function at the school, whether it's being able to accommodate, real estate is a 7-day-a-week role, but particularly Saturdays with opens and things, being able to attend a sports game that your child might be able, netball, soccer, football, whatever, taking an hour to go and do that level of understanding isn't always necessarily there. What I've noticed is the people or the leaders that have that level of understanding are either really interested and passionate about evolving their leadership and their leadership style for the current climate that we're in, or they are people that are having that experience themselves, either, with their partner or themselves as a working parent, and then they have that level of understanding. I have one of my business owners at the moment who is, we had somebody from another brand that was wanting to leave the industry because she just was sick of being away from her family on a Saturday, quite a reasonable sales agent with strong numbers. And he said to her, well, I'll run your opens for you. I get it. He has small children at home. It's exactly how his wife feels. And so he said, well, I'll just do it. I would rather give up a couple of hours on my Saturday to help support these open homes when she's adding other value to the business. And they just figured it out. And it's wonderful that people have got that mindset. But that is somebody that's experiencing that in life themselves at the moment. It'd be great if everyone could have that level of understanding.
Do you think there is a need for agencies, leaders to be better educated in a way to get that understanding of parenthood? Or where do we get there to have that flexibility for all parents?
Yeah, it's a tough question, and I don't know that I necessarily have the answer. Ultimately, yes. I think that across the board, whether it's this specific issue or another, I think leadership in general is lacking across the industry. I think there's a lack of awareness around what a good leader looks like. I think there is a lack of education around leadership, and I think there is I think the biggest problem is people that open businesses and become our next real estate leaders are generally high-performing sales agents that want to go and do their own thing because they haven't had the leadership they necessarily were craving where they are. And so instead of then going, well, this is what I didn't like and this is what I want to be and working on the leadership that they want to have when they go and open their business, they just repeat the same mistakes because that's how they've been taught to do it. That was their experience. So why should it be any different for the people that they employ?
I think there's also the fact that if you are a high-performing agent and then become a business leader, you gotta have that understanding that you're not gonna perform as well anymore because you've got all of the extra tasks. And I think that's kind of a point that they don't always think through.
I think it's not thought through. I do think some of them do perform just as well, if not better. But I think the ones that perform well and become good leaders are ones that understand that business ownership does not change your role. It increases your responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think is severely underestimated.
Definitely. Look, to bring it back to the women in the industry, talking about leadership as well, How do you, as a leader, create a space that allows your female team to actually like thrive and, you know, have that possibility to be performative and to grow within your team and your business?
Yeah, great question. I think the answer comes down to what is it that each individual person needs. What I might need from my leader to help me thrive and grow will be different to what you need from your leader to help you thrive and grow. And so having the capability to ask the right questions, actually listen and hear the answer, and then provide whatever that environment or structure or clarity is what everybody needs. And so with all of that, although each of those things are going to be different, no one is saying, you know, that they want something that's really, you know, out of this world. Generally, what most people want is a clear pathway, clarity, structure, and an environment of trust. And those things are actually not that hard to achieve if you focus on them.
And if you listen to your people.
And if you listen to your people.
Talking about listening, you've launched a new survey, a new study to understand what are women lacking in the industry and how performance stacks up with family life, barriers and challenges, but also the good things like flexibility. Tell me a little bit more before we dive into the results. Tell me why it was important to have these answers now.
So the survey, it's something I've always been passionate about, is women in the industry and helping women have... I'm a big believer. I'm my own person.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm a wife. Yes, I'm a daughter. Yes, I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a friend. But I'm also Jacqui. I'm my own person with my own identity. And I think sometimes we can get wrapped up in the roles we play in people's lives rather than being who we are. And so I think sometimes what happens is conversations are had with some people in the industry, well-meaning, and surveys are done to try and understand how they can help women thrive and grow. But I don't think the right questions have been asked. There have been some good questions, but it hasn't gone deep enough or broad enough to really understand. And so this survey, it's not a complaint register. It's not meant to be a tally of all of the complaints and grievances that women have in the industry. It is an understanding of what stages of life women have come into the industry, where they've thrived, what's held them back, what's helped them grow, what they craved that they might have been missing, what their performance levels are, so that we can understand what it is that is needed, and we can then create the environment to help women perform at their best in those specific areas. And so with all of that, it comes down to really I'm not saying that this survey is going to have the answers. The aim of the survey is to start a conversation so that we can perhaps then create solutions after that.
Which is why we're here today,
Exactly.
to have the conversation. By all means, the survey is not over yet.
No, it's still going.
I want to precise this, which means that our listeners can still go ahead and like answers to those questions.
Yeah.
But a couple of early trends have emerged, including that the first 2 years of a women's career are the most critical.
Yeah, so the first 2 years, every single respondent all have expressed a level of hesitation and struggle in those first 2 years. So what it's showing so far, and of course, if I get an influx of responses, this data could change. But the trend that is emerging is that if you can survive those first 2 years, they all go on to perform well. No one is an average performer or mediocre performer after those first 2 years. So that first 2 years is really critical. And it also sort of shows up the significance and importance of training, support, mentoring, and guidance in those first 2 years.
Which I think is quite important, because I kind of want to know if those ladies have given you an idea about why, like, those first 2 years were the hardest one.
Yeah, so some people have, the way the survey is done, people have the option to share some information on that, but they're not forced to share it. So those that have shared it have spoken about one of the issues being it is so competitive internally in their offices. They might be competing with their principal, they might be competing with another sales agent, and there's no sort of leader that is sort of creating a level playing field. And so they wanted to give up the hours, the expectation. The industry, what the reporters also showed is the industry rewards availability, not output.
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's one of those things that first 2 years is such a struggle. And the women that have shared insight into why they stayed, generally it all came down to, I worked so hard over this 2-year period, I couldn't just walk away when I could see I was getting to that tipping point, or they had enough determination in themselves to just keep pushing.
You mentioned that it showed that there is a need for the industry to have like a lot more mentorship.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that? Because I think, you know, everybody does deserve to have a great mentor, doesn't matter which industry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I don't know whether or not there's enough mentorship availability in the real estate industry. Is that due maybe for lack of time, lack of sharing?
Do you know what? It's an interesting topic, and I could probably do a whole nother podcast on mentoring, to be honest, because it's another area that we focus on heavily at Laing+Simmons. But I think I think people misunderstand how willing the industry is to give back. So I think there's two parts of it. I think that people that are capable of delivering mentoring don't necessarily advertise themselves or promote themselves as someone to go and approach for those types of conversations, even though they are very approachable. And I think that because of that, people that need the mentoring don't have the courage to pick up the phone and say, hey, can you share with me how you did this? So lots of brands have got sort of formal structured mentoring programs. The REI has run formal structured mentoring programs at one point in time. And so I think it's available if people go and seek it out, but they have to be proactive as the person wanting to receive the mentoring. There was, a good chunk of people, one of the questions we asked is do you have a mentor that you can identify with? That doesn't necessarily mean that a female agent wants a female mentor. It's just someone that they can identify with. And about 60% said that they do. But that means 40% of women in the industry don't have a mentor they can identify with. I don't know the answer why. Is it because they haven't sorted out? Is it that they don't know that they can reach out to people? Is it that they don't know where to go? They don't have the guidance or somebody to connect them with somebody else? But I think it also shows how critical and important having networking groups, mentoring groups, that tribe of other people around you that might be in a similar career stage that can help give you the information you need, or the coaching you need, or the resilience you need, or it might be the hug you need after getting that last, another bloody real estate agent on the phone. You know, it's just having that person to go to that's not necessarily responsible for signing your paycheck.
Yeah. I think it's sometimes very hard to find that tribe, especially when you're starting, in the real estate industry. Because I feel like having your tribe impacts, like, you need to have a level of trust.
You do.
So, it's all about building that tribe. And how do you make sure you get surrounded by the right people?
I am very, very lucky. I have got the most phenomenal group of women in my life, and some of them are all from the one little group, and some of them are all unconnected to one another. And I actually realized recently, when somebody asked me this question, the impact that those ladies have had on my life, particularly over the last 5 years, has been astronomical. And I am not sure that I would be where I am in my career if I didn't have those girls in my corner. Some of them are my girlfriends, some of them are my professional friends, but they are all my biggest cheerleaders and the ones that are encouraging me to keep going when it might be a rough day. Or it might be they're the ones that are celebrating something that I've done. And I think that the impact that those women can have, or actually it's probably not just women, it can also be men, but the impact that tribe can have on your life should never be underestimated.
Yeah, and it's kind of necessary to have like people celebrating you, as much as you will go and celebrate them.
Yeah.
I think it's it is kind of definitely necessary in a way.
Yeah.
What are some of the other findings you guys got from the results so far?
Unfortunately, sexual harassment and gender bias is still, it was not surprising but terrifying to read about those trends. And to be honest, some of the information that I've read, it should not be on my email. It should be in a police report. One of the things that I did find interesting, though, from a trend perspective is a lot of the stuff that's come through from it is happening more when people are junior or earlier in their career with less experience, and there's more of a power imbalance. So it seems to be more linked to a career stage rather than the age of an individual woman. And it might be an employer, it might be another team member, it could be a client, it could be a tradesperson that works with the office. It's happening. It's not exclusive to, say, a male sales agent in someone's office hitting on somebody else. It's coming across a variety of areas.
Which I don't know if it's better or worse, Jacqui, to be honest.
Look, it's hard. It's hard to know because we're not at the end of the report yet. But from what I can see so far in the trends, it does seem that there has been a shift in the more recent years. So the age demographic of people that have responded to that question, those in the 18 to 24 bracket, a couple of things have happened, but not a lot, not as much compared to people that might be in an older demographic where things were sort of certainly a little bit more loose.
Back in time.
And so, there is definitely, so it's positive to see that it does look like things are heading in the right direction for change. Sadly, a lot of people are not comfortable reporting it.
Yeah.
And the reason they're not comfortable reporting it is because they don't believe that it's going to actually be addressed, or they are concerned about the impact it's going to have on their role and career and employment with the team that they're with. But with the age demographic, again, those that are younger are more comfortable reporting it these days.
Which I think that's definitely a good thing that we do report it as women, and that we understand that it's definitely a wrong behavior, and that it should not happen across, the industry. It doesn't matter who you are. Which I think it's also challenging when you see those behavior. I think there is a need for every individual within the industry to, when they see something wrong within that scope, to challenge the other people. Which brings me to how can, even men, I think, I think men should challenge other men.
So I have got some amazing men in my corner that are the biggest champions and cheerleaders of me. And, they're different age demographics. Some are younger than me, some are older than me. And when they've heard stories that have been shared, they are horrified to hear that they're just as shocked as the women who've experienced it, that it goes on, because they're not that way, I guess. But I think what I've really noticed is there are some wonderful men in our industry that absolutely do call it out. There was a situation that I'm aware of once where a group of men commented on a particular woman in the industry's appearance and the size of her chest. And, there was, maybe a group of 5 of them. A few of them said nothing, and one really emphatically called it out about how it was not okay. And so I would hope that now that we're in 2026, that more men choose to say what this man said, to call out the behaviour and demonstrate that it's not acceptable. I do think we are headed in that direction. I think people are getting stronger and in having the courage to call out. It's not easy to call someone out.
No.
It's not an easy thing to do, even though you might want to do it. Actually, difficult conversations are not easy. And so I think that working on having the strength to be able to say those things to people as it happens, particularly when you've got, all of these things happen at social events where there's a couple of wines at a Christmas dinner, an awards night, whatever it might be. I don't think those sort of comments sort of happen day to day in the office anymore. But when they do happen, having the courage to call it out, no matter what your position in the business is, even if you are the most junior of receptionists with your first day on the job to the most senior of agents or business owner, being able to call out unacceptable behaviour, no matter what it is, no matter who it is that's behaved that way, I think it does take courage, but I hope that we head in that direction where everybody's got the strength to do it.
Do you think that leaders should be a bit more proactive to create a safe space for their agents?
Well, it's legislated now. So there is now a positive duty that it's legislated that we have to provide that proactive level of education and support. And I mean, it's 2026, man.
Yeah.
People know.
It's time.
It's everywhere. It's time.
It is time.
Do we really need to go and teach somebody, you know what, don't go and comment on the size of that girl's chest. Don't go and pinch her on the backside. You know, I understand that there might be more nuances if, you know, two people are in the workplace and they happen to be attracted to one another and start up a bit of a relationship and it's very consensual and, you know, they fall in love and whatever. That's different. But, you know, so I get that there's a fine line between, you know, people that might be interested in one another and just happen to meet in the workplace. Of course it happens. But I think that understanding that, yes, employers have a duty and leaders have a duty to provide that education. It's legislated, but also understanding that, you know, our employees and team members in the workforce, we should know.
Yeah, but you know what? Yes, definitely we should know, but it's still not happening.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
Where's the gap there? You know, like, and how do we close that gap? That's the thing, you know, like I think, and I mean, it's always, it irks me a little bit when, and I'm wondering sometimes at times, I'm like, is there a need for like a bigger regulation when you hire people? Like I know you're looking at, you know, like your, what is it called in English now? Your criminal record, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You know, you do look at the criminal records, but is there like a need to maybe do like a personality check and go and talk to, you know, multiple former employees before you're hiring somebody and making sure that the person you're hiring fits the culture, men or women?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And the recruiter in me wants to do a whole nother podcast on that. But do you know how many people don't check references? This whole industry takes people at face value.
Which is another issue in itself.
I know. But you know what the other thing is though too? In fairness to references and previous employers, there are previous employers that will give a reasonable reference because, you know, it's challenging to, from a legal perspective, how much can you share in a reference? It's hard to get that information and people see dollar signs. Business owners, they've got bills to pay. They've got wages to pay next week, business overheads. And if you've got somebody that's bringing in $1 million a year that was terminated from their previous employment for sexual harassment, that previous employer is probably not going to share the reason for going. They'll just say, look, I don't really want to share a reference. You can see their results online. And that business owner will probably still go, you know what? They present really well. We had a great conversation. We can build rapport. Of course you can. They're a real estate agent. That's their job. And they get hired anyway.
Yeah, which is another, it should maybe need for another legislation or at least do like a bigger social media dive before you're hiring people because...
That's not something that appears on the internet though. It's not, people don't really, it doesn't really show up. I mean, there's a digital footprint these days, of course, but stuff like that, it's just not written anywhere.
Maybe we should start writing it.
I know.
We should. What are some of the other trends you've seen so far?
Confidence is a really interesting one, right? And I find this really interesting for people in general coming into the industry because a lot of the time you'll meet a newcomer that, you know, they're coming in to sit down for an interview. And obviously this is for International Women's Day, so I'll focus on women in this part of it. But, you sit down in front of somebody and you think, oh my God, they've got what it takes. They can have a great conversation. They can build rapport. You can see that they can converse with clients really well and get their message across. And you think, you know what? That's a confident woman there. I'm going to give her a go. The funny thing is, none of them come into the industry with confidence.
Fake it till you make it.
That's what they're doing. This is the trend that's come through. They build confidence as their expertise and skill set grows, but they actually, and what was interesting is how many of them are still, you know, experience imposter syndrome now, even with 10 years experience and writing $2 million a year, for example. There was no trend over a demographic of people feeling a confidence or lack of confidence issue. It was interesting to see how that came through.
Why do you think is that?
I think people misunderstand confidence for ambition.
Yeah.
And that confidence is built by doing hard stuff repeatedly until you master it. But having the ambition or the drive or the motivation to keep pushing when it's hard, I think is something that not everybody has that, and that's why some people do leave the industry, because it's harder than they thought. Actually, I don't know if hard's the right word. Being resilient to the struggles, I think, is what's hard, actually. And so I think that confidence issue is something that just comes in time once you get a few wins. I had a business owner say to me the other day, the biggest confidence booster is signing a new agency agreement and getting a 4 sales sign up. Of course it is.
It is.
It just takes one sign.
But, I had so we did a lot of stories for International Women's Day here at REB. And I spoke to multiple women across the industry, so buyers agents, commercial real estate, the RISE initiatives. And what came across on our end was like, women are so easy to see their weaknesses, but have such a hard time to see their strengths.
That's interesting.
Which it when you think about it, it's kind of true. You always kind of focus on what you need to improve rather than like seeing what you actually do really, really well. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I actually see that. I hadn't considered that before, but I can see it. I think that women are conscious of not coming off the wrong way.
Yes.
I think they have the social skills and social awareness to not want to be perceived as, say, having an ego.
Yeah.
So they might – actually, I've got a silly example. Let's say I bump into you in the street, or we're going to an event and I say, oh, my gosh, I love your dress. You look fabulous. And women don't just say thank you. They say, oh, I got it on sale at this place.
Know.
They don't just say
God,
thank you.
yeah.
They don't accept the compliment.
It is so true.
It is.
It is so true.
And it was about 18 months ago, I caught myself and I thought, why do I do that? And when somebody has given me one of those compliments over the last 18 months, I've had to really consciously say, thank you. And it's like, I feel like my face is burning because it's not a natural thing. I've had to teach myself to do it, but all of us do it.
You know what? I have never thought about it, but I do exactly the same. I had like a really great faux suede dress for New Year's Eve. And someone was like, oh my God, I love your dress. I was like, yeah, $10 came out. Like,
but you know what? Why does it matter?
I don't know.
If I'm wearing a $2,000 designer dress, I should be able to be proud of the fact that I've done that. I should also be proud of my $10 Kmart dress. We should just be proud to say, yeah, I feel fabulous today. Thanks so much. But it's one of those things that it's like we don't know. I don't know if it's whether we don't know how to take the compliment or we're concerned about how it might make us come across.
Well, I think ambition is a really hard thing for women in the sense that you don't want to come across as either bossy or, domineering or all of these adjectives that are kind of like restricted to women as well.
Yeah, so it was interesting. One of the questions we asked in the survey, and I don't have the exact stats yet, but was whether you work for a male business owner, female business owner, or a combination of business partners of both genders, and then who you preferred to work for. And it was really sad to see some of the answers coming through. So people could just nominate their answer and not explain it, but some people went and explained it. And, in some of the feedback that came in, I find working for female leaders, they're But is being direct and providing you clarity being or is it being fair to you, giving you the information you need with no ambiguity so that you can go and do what you need to do?
Yeah.
I think that sometimes when women especially, are direct communicators, people can find that jarring.
Yeah.
And so if a man is communicating directly, and it's not necessarily about giving something negative, it could be positive feedback they're sharing, but that is because women as a stereotype come across with that warmth and empathy. When there is directness or strong clarity to share information effectively, it's then perceived as being rude or a bitch or blunt or abrasive. But if a man is doing it, he's in a hurry. That's just his style. And it's a shame that we haven't been able to evolve with that as women with other women.
100%. And I'll add even on that, I think it depends on nationality as well. Because coming from Europe as a French person, we are very, very direct. And we often come up as rude.
I must have been French in a past life.
Oh, well, I'll take you. Come on my way. We come up as rude. And a lot of European also come up as rude. And when you think about it, the real estate is a multicultural industry. So I think there's also like a cultural fit that sometimes isn't there.
Actually, I agree with that. I don't know if I wouldn't say it's necessarily cultural fit. My husband is English is his second language, and so French is also his first language.
We've got great taste, Jacqui.
He would agree with you. But what I've noticed then, obviously then having all my in-laws and him with English as a second language, is sometimes when he will say something to me, it comes across almost like, oh, all right then. He doesn't mean it that way.
No.
He's heard what I've said to him in English. He's had to translate it to French in his brain, answer in his brain in French, and then quickly translate it back to English. And so I find what happens is sometimes the translation is very literal. And so, I mean, I know when I was overseas visiting my in-laws, I was like, okay, I'll see you later. And they're like, oh, what time are you coming back? I'm like, no, I'm going. I'll see you later. Yes, later. What time's later? What I should have said was goodbye.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, but not see you later means, oh, she's coming back later on today.
Yeah.
Like what time? So it's the literal sense of the translation. And obviously, as you say, we've got so many cultures in our country now, so many different cultures across our industry, which is wonderful. But there is, I think, sometimes that can be misunderstood because when English is a second language, and I know trying to learn French to speak to my in-laws, which is going appallingly, that the way that you translate, they'll have a little giggle when I say something because I know that I've said it not quite right, and it's not. They know how I meant it because they're my family, but the way it's interpreted is different.
Which I think, when you come to the industry and look, even if you're like, for example, a regional agent and you've come to the city and you've never really experienced a lot of foreigners growing up, I think the changes is kind of like you have to adapt. And, especially for like a lot of foreign women's within the industry, I think it's you've got like a double whammy kind of.
Yeah, I do agree with that. So I actually worked in a regional town for a short time, for a couple of years, a million moons ago. And it was a very Anglo-Saxon area, quite sort of far out in regional New South Wales. And we had, at that time, there was a couple of new cultures were coming into the area. They'd been brought in to work. And when they would come in looking for a rental property, because I'm from Sydney and I just moved out there for a short time, they would have to get me to speak to them because with the accent, they couldn't understand it because they weren't used to dealing with it day to day. Whereas because I'd come from an office that had a lot of that population in it, I could understand everybody very easily. And so it's interesting how then now that I think particularly since COVID, I think so many people move around. It's funny how I know we're all states and what have you, but everybody can be everywhere and working anywhere these days, that I think that could be underestimated as well, the impact of not necessarily understanding, even the accents of things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, 100%. I'm lucky because the French accent, everybody likes it. We don't understand why. As a little secret, like French people, we find our accent appealing. But it is sometimes hard to get your message across when you're just basically mispronouncing words. But, it's...
Communication is such an interesting thing. I think ultimately what matters is the person that you're speaking with, if English is their second language, don't be distracted by whatever else is going on. Don't be looking down at your phone or thinking about your next appointment. Pay attention to what the person is that's saying. And it's also okay. Like my husband will still say something to me and I'll look at him and I'll say, What? 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 Can you speak English, please? I don't know what you're saying. And he's like, I am speaking English. And so, but he's okay with me saying, I don't understand. You have to say it slower. And, we have a laugh about it. But lots of people are happy to tell you. They'll find another word. They'll find another way of explaining it.
And I think that's the great listening skills is something, and the great communication, I think it's something like women do really well.
They do.
And I think that's something we need to learn to actually take this our advantage.
I think it's a superpower of a woman. Women have so many advantages in this industry. Just the perception of, I still remember earlier on in my career, I was an EA to one of my original mentors, who's still a mentor to me now, and he wanted to put a project together, and so he said, I need you to go door knock it. And it was the first time that I was doing door knocking. I was like freaking out about how was I going to even have this conversation? I said, why can't you come with me? He said, I'm a man. When I knock on their door, they're going to roll their eyes and shut the door. You're a woman. They'll at least hear you out because you already have an implied level of being trusted. And it's funny, that stuck with me 20-something years later. And it's true, unfortunately, for the poor guys out there that are just trying to do their job and get their connects and door knocks done each day. But we do have that advantage of having a perceived level of trust that our male counterparts don't have. And I don't think that that's necessarily leveraged well enough. I find that particularly people that go in, like co-agents that go in together where you've got one male and one female, they list a lot. Because they're able to appeal to both people that they're sitting in front of, or if they're sitting in front of one person, if that particular client gravitates more towards a male, well, great, the male's sitting there in the meeting. If they gravitate more towards a female, great, the female's sitting there in the meeting. You can give the best listing presentation and pitch in the world, but if you have a client that's sitting in front of you as a woman that just really wants to deal with a man, or as a man that just wants to really deal with a woman, and you are not that gender, you're already on the back foot.
Yeah.
So being able to go in together is very powerful at times.
It's pretty good strategy there as well.
It is. I just think that the way that women communicate is different to men.
Oh,
we have we're able to, there's some wonderfully empathetic men, but women display it differently. And there is a perception, I think, that all women have a level of empathy. But the reality is that there can be women that don't have empathy, the same way that there can be men that have buckets of it. But it's perceived that we all have it. And so it just softens the whole process, I think, and makes that cut through a little bit easier.
For the newcomers in the industry, again, it's an International Women's Day podcast, so let's focus on women. How can the new women agents coming in the industry actually use all those strengths like great communications, emotional intelligence to their advantage to actually grow? What's your tips there?
So one of the things that came out of the survey was the style of client base that women have. So the trend that I'm seeing from the results that we have so far is that the client base that women have is coming from relationship-based prospecting, networking, referrals, and repeat business resulting from high-touch service and client care. And so what I've realised with that is if you've got most newcomers, no matter their gender, when they start, it's go and connect with 100 people a day, 50 people, whatever the number is. And it's almost a little bit telemarketer style. Yeah. But where if women's business is coming from a different area, is starting a woman with those type of KPIs going to get the results fast enough? I'm not saying women don't need to do the cold calling, but combine it. I've got an agent that is very successful, and she absolutely detests cold calling, and she will not do it. She flat out refuses.
Fair point.
And but she's a very strong lister. She's got very strong GCI. She goes to get her nails done, she'll walk out with an appraisal. She goes to get her hair done, she'll come out with a referral.
I love that.
She does the school run and then goes straight to the coffee shop near the school where all the mums are, and she'll walk out with 5 new people to add to her database. And she focuses on being of service and networking, because so the other day she helped somebody buy at auction. And they said, we're already listed with another agent. And she said, that's okay, you don't need to do anything. Can we pay you a fee? Nope, I don't take a fee for helping you as a buyer. I've just helped you so that you can move to your next. I'm just being of service to you. But why? What can we do for you? She said, well, the next time one of your friends says that they want an agent to come and give them a price update, or they're thinking about selling, you'll tell them about your experience with me. That's it. And that's the thing. That relationship, networking, that referral-based stuff, it will pay dividends if you put the effort in. The thing to remember is, though, you have to be genuine about it.
Yeah.
If you don't actually care about people, that style's not going to work for you. Go and focus on the cold call telemarketer style. But generally speaking, the majority of women have that style of approach. And so if they can lean into that and being, that high touch client care service level, leveraging that can work wonders.
Yeah, and I love that style. I think it's fantastic. Go for a nail appointment, get a referral. Go for a coffee, get a referral.
Yeah.
What a great way to do work.
Yeah, she does school pickup every day. She's got her Laing+Simmons badge on, so everybody knows who she is. She just books it as an appointment in her diary. It takes her 15 minutes, but that's 15 minutes of however many parents at that school that are all local residents seeing her and identifying her as an agent.
100%. Very smart. Jacqui, where would you like to see the industry go in the future for women?
I was thinking about this morning, actually. I would love us to be at a point where we don't need to say, I'm a female leader.
Yeah.
I'm just a leader. I don't need to say I'm a female agent. I'm a real estate agent. We don't need to attach our gender, what our gender is to what it is that we're doing. So I actually don't think we're that far away from it. There is still a way to go, but I've got a 7-year-old, and I hope by the time that she's in the workforce, she is a leader, not a female leader. Or she's whatever it is that she wants to be without having to attach female to it.
Well, and I think the new generation is definitely there to change things.
Agree.
Well, Jacqui, thank you so much for your time today. The survey is still open, and where can be found?
It's on the Real Women in Real Estate website, or people can reach out to me directly for a copy.
That's fantastic. So if you are interested in giving your experience as a woman in the industry, please do so. This is all we have time for today, but we will be back next week with another episode of the Real Estate Business Podcast. In the meantime, we are on all your social platforms. Just search for Real Estate Business.